a automation session, understand it very well. They have a great application with Symantec for auto processing. This is the sales and as a distributor, it's right on where we are. Having been in AI around the same time in the early 90s and having fled that space after that, I feel what's happening here in terms of automation is a great new revolution. It's probably going to change to a $500 billion market very soon. So I understand the value. Now, how do you take what you understand and push it into a $30 billion company which you work for? That's my challenge. So at this point, yes, I mean, I'm talking to folks, and if they bite, if they have the time to listen, that's fine. If they don't, they don't. I mean, you know, I think all the stuff you guys are doing is extremely impressive. It's the right thing, you know, to do, and I think this is the early stage of a major wave. The challenge, I think, over time is as your industry gets mature, a lot of what you do will be incorporated within applications.
Mm-hmm.
SAP will come and chew up your business. I mean, you know, I just
No, you're right. I mean,
I'm just saying that, right?
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. I mean, like, you know, chatbots.
Or someone else. So having been both in the startup as well as large companies before, so it's so I think what you have is very embryonic and it's great. The question is how and where you take it has to be done in a smart way.
CFO organization.
That?
CFO organization. In fact, I've seen anybody trying an RPA, I'm sorry to make it so simple, that is where someone will listen because there is a quick win because it's like a success breeds success, right? So you need to show a couple of quick wins in terms of one of the process eliminated, and there is a guy who is free now, can do a lot more better things in the life, right? We've seen that is at least 4 of our customers, 3 different technologies. One is in Blue Prism, one is in UiPath, one is in Automation Anywhere. All 3 are in the finance.
And they're the early adopters.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. So I think what I mean, these are the low-hanging fruits, right? So, but the key part is you want to focus in huge markets.
Yeah.
And those markets are probably, if manufacturing comes back to the US, you're part of the solution. You're not taking efficiency and, you know, putting people out of work, but you're bringing in business and creating more work, right?
Yeah.
So more people who understand your automation process, the better off you become the engine and they become the implementer.
Yep.
So I think those are the areas that you may want to look at more strategically. A little beyond what you're doing now, but that will come. So I really compliment all of you and what you do. Very exciting.
You know, I mean, I'm pretty sure like you've experienced this today. Natural language processing. I mean, any app you take, mobile app. I mean, Apple, Google, everyone actually has done it. The moment you're typing it, actually like content to intent, which actually Matt was mentioning. You know, many times this is something which actually happens every time. Like, you know, if I'm typing an address, I just type first digit, and the rest of the address appears. I mean, like obviously that's based on the historical data. Chatbots has become like, you know, part of life today. I don't think people actually get agitated like when I'm interacting with the chatbot, and it is based on the same thing where you actually start like, you know, you create a library of data sets and then you go one by one, you know, it's become part of life now, you know. And my view, and like, you know, at least in the last 25 years, I mean, you see names like Lucent, Nortel, Nokias of the world, you know, which no one would have assumed that like they will be, you know, eliminated from the face of earth. They got eliminated. So it's a business necessity today. I think, you know, my view is developing a cloud native application. I think it's a business necessity. It's no longer a luxury. You wanted to make some point, yeah?
Yeah, so maybe I don't know how you guys have solved this. As you just came across as if this is such an easy thing to do, and if you really think it is that easy, I want to really learn from you guys. And I'll give you an example, as you said about conversational chatbot, and we're trying to crack that, and maybe this is something where we can look at Google and see how we can solve this problem. I mean, we have solved RPA problem. We have the predictive and prescriptive analytics problem. We are trying to solve that as well. The area that we are trying to penetrate, at least in my group, is what I call as enterprise employee virtual assistant or customer virtual assistant, if you will. You see, if you look at just an employee virtual assistant as an example, there are three kinds of workloads I typically look at, right? One is a typical FAQ. Okay, here are the 25 questions. Here are the permutation of questions, answers that you can, or people might ask, and here are the answers to it. That's a slam dunk. That's one. Second thing is, okay, I ask a question, then I want to do a transaction, or an inquiry or a transaction. You call it a backend API, again, you manage through this. And I see, when I look at the different line functions within an organization, and the level of automation penetration that you can do within its finance or HR or legal, let's assume that RPA can solve 20% of the problem, right? Conversation can solve, let's say, another 30% of the problem. The other 50% of the workload that you see, and I think will be real, time value of money, would be is to, instead of making the employees remember what information is stored where, versus delivering it to them when they need it, where they need it, if you will, right? For that, you need to some sort of a combination of search engine that is smart enough and it is self-learning, and a conversational chatbot that is completely integrated to it. That way, we don't have army of people sitting and designing conversation and coming up with answers to it, right? So, if anybody has solved that problem, I'd love to have a conversation with you. Because people come and tell me that, oh, we can solve the search, or we can solve the chatbot problem. Yeah, that's an FAQ, okay?
You're absolutely right. I think you're absolutely right, because right from telephony days, IVR used to do the same thing. I mean, if you really go back and used to do the same thing.
No,
But,
specifically, just to be clear, right? My request is, just like Google, if you go type, okay, a keyword, just don't give me a link. Let me give you an example. If a sales guy is sitting in, let's say, New York City, and he missed his flight, and he needs to find out what is the travel policy of that company to book a hotel in New York City, we shouldn't be slamming him with, okay, go log into your network, go to your travel site, and open up this PDF document, and crawl through and figure out where the document and where the information is. Just give him the snippet. That is all he needs. So he can move on with his life, or for that matter, sales processes, if you will, right? That is what the problem I'm still not able to crack. And has anybody cracked it? Love to have a conversation.
Anyone wants to contribute to that?
Pradeep possibly can talk about, he's one of the conversational AI experts as well.
So, yeah, I mean, we are trying to build some of the use cases which you explained in Riverbed. Our tech engineers, our CSMs, they are asking for some kind of ecosystem which are pretty much similar to this, what you are saying. Having chatbots, having a self-assistance tool for our customers. So far we are trying to. I mean, I have been in Riverbed in like, it's just been 1.5 years, not even 1.5 years. I'm trying to consolidate all the systems, but I think it can be achieved. What you are saying may not be. I mean, we can go into details and get the use cases, but it can be achieved. Every industry is solving their problem in their way, right? I mean, what system and tools they have in their hand, what new systems they can bring in into the enterprise ecosystem. It's not like we can go and pick one product and get into the environment, right? There are a lot of restrictions, there are a lot of challenges there. But people have done it. We have done some POCs also around this. And I would be more than happy to talk to you and then get into the details and share some of the use cases which we have internally in hand. But it's a very common problem actually.
Yeah, it's famously known as the dark data problem
Right.
of organizations, wherein you don't know what you don't know, and it still exists within your organization, and unraveling that, mining of that information, not just data, is just the
This is
biggest
one of the
challenge.
biggest problem in travel industry, right?
Yeah.
So travel industry has two stakeholders, right? One is the consumer, another is the internal employee. So if the users are doing business travels, employees are doing business travels, the policy changes from rank to rank, title to title, right? So if they want to find out any information, some of the informations are in Word docs, some of the informations are in PDF, some of the informations are sitting in someone's local system, right? And it's no matter which kind of tool, technology you implement in your internal ecosystem, it's not going to solve the problem until and unless you have a federated content plus AI, ML, a strong recommendation tool, everything built into the ecosystem, right? And it's not very easy to implement until and unless, as you said, lack of talent, which Vinay was just double clicking on your point, right? Who is going to explain what information needs to be given at what point of time, right? If you know that and you have the data, you can certainly go and implement it. So we had that kind of challenge. I mean, in my career, I had that challenges when I was talking to one of the travel company, and they were saying that my biggest problem is my employees don't get information when they need it, especially around the travels and policies, right? Somebody wrote the policy 20 years back, right? and that is not in any of the central system. But if you go and log a ticket internally, there is someone who is sitting on the desk and he will go and do the control F and whatever the.
But does it mean that this is a problem more acute for organizations which are also having legacy systems? Is it fair to say that the organization which is, let's say, 5-year-old, for them this is solvable?
I think it's a common problem across many different places. I just don't think that I just use the example of travel policy, right? Here's another one for the day, right? If a sales guy is coming to meet you, and as soon as you ask him a question, do you have this feature set? He may or may not know. When he doesn't know, he has to go file a request into their internal ISR, and they typically take 24 to 48 hours. How about giving him an answer immediately in 30 seconds? You're accelerating the whole revenue cycle, right? That is the key problem that we need to solve, and how if we can find a solution to that, that'll be fantastic. Yes, the FAQ can be solved, the transaction can be solved. If you cannot really solve that, then we all need to go home.
Yeah, I mean, simple problem like, do you support this product version, right? Customers ask. That product version, maybe he has that equipment 15 years back installed, right? Since last 10 years, that server has not even rebooted, right? And customer, I mean, 80% of the team in that customer premise, they don't even know they own this system. But we are getting the signals, we know that system is healthy and working, right? Now somebody out of the blue call the customer support guy and say that, hey, I need a product manual for this version, I am not able to find it. Now, the tech engineers, they even don't know where the product manual is for that 1947 product version. But you can't say, I won't support you. You don't publish that I don't support this product anymore, right? So these are the legacy content in the legacy system in legacy time, right?
I think it would be a problem for both the legacy companies which have enormous data but not available when it's needed, versus the new age companies which have not even generated those kind of data which is available for them. But
so I think, to me, it's the 80-20 rule, right? 80% you're going to start with is going to be completely manual. There's going to have to be some education, some training of the chatbots, of the IPA processes, of AI, right? And then essentially it then starts to switch the other way around, whereas you get to 80% can be automated, but then you have the complex cases of the 20% that cannot, and then you're essentially then dealing with that 20% through a human interaction, whereas that human interaction is being performed, the bot is learning. Right, and then it's just a continuous iteration. I don't think you can ever 100% automate everything.
No, we're not saying it needs to be 100%, but here's the biggest challenge, right? Again, going back to change management. if you say go use a chatbot for only this 25 question, for others you go back and use your search, internet search, people will say, what the hell?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right?
people won't
So,
use
but
it.
then there is a transition period where the technology has to catch up
Yep.
to get to there, and this is the time that everybody is going to struggle through, and not many people will bring the money to the table and say, if that's all you can solve, then why are we wasting cycles?
I think that's where you have to that's where you have to integrate the chatbot in and say,
They
I'm
may
sorry.
say that anyway.
Yeah. So I think
And they do.
so not to try and solve the problem, but one of the clients that I worked with, we actually had that problem, right? They're a hardware manufacturer, right? Similar to what you do, right? And we said, look, you know, we can bring the chatbot in, and initially it's going to be a scope of problems that we would solve. So they make PC and print. So we said, look, let's solve we'll divide it up into, we'll pick a particular product where there would be users that are high value, that understand technology, right? And they would actually be able to train the chatbot, much the same way as Google used the pictures, you know, the little things that the you know, select the 4 pictures of a bus, right? Use to train their AI technology. So we said, look, let's do something similar. Pick a high value product, start with that, because we know that is also a user community that is also into technology. And then what we did was we picked a common set of problems. So we took your FAQ, codified it, right? But then we decided to solve the problems with the chatbot. When we couldn't solve the problem, we were honest with the customer. Said, look, sorry, we can't do this. I'm running a search for you now. These are the top 3 search results that have come back. And then they would actually pick one, and we know which one they picked, right? And then we could actually say, was this helpful or not helpful? So it's training it that way too, right? I think, again, it's the 80-20 rules of what I've experienced.
We have the conversation